Just unpredictable TV programming back in the 1980s. It sometimes threw me for a loop, especially when you're a 9-year-old bored out of your skull, which sleeping couldn't even serve as a proper remedy. So I stayed up on Fridays and Saturdays checking out late-night television, which sometimes left me feeling a bit spooked. I say this because late-night programming caught my attention time and time again, seeing strange light patterns, pictures, and experimental broadcast that seemed too far outside of the norm. Because the norm wasn't late-night online streaming, well yeah, it wasn't around at that time of course, and the closest thing to it was authentic cable transmission service. ONTV was the preferred cable brand. Well, more so my father, because I wasn't allowed to fiddle with the cable box because channels like HBO, Showtime or Cinemax had a patched lineup of movies to watch. They were mostly rated R, and these were flicks ranging from steaming love interest movies to over-the-top action-packed, and finally horror occupied the last category slot. But that changed once I got my hands on my father's old shortwave Panasonic. It was basically a ham 47 radio. I'll share what I discovered in a minute. Because I'm including a mind-blogging late-show musical visual intro spooked me every time I heard it. And there was an experimental internet-like news broadcast show intro that sent a chill down my spine. Oh boy. Let's dive in because the anticipation revved me into overdrive. Let's start with that shortwave tech find I stumbled onto that granted me access to online cable. I took the radio upstairs, did it for no apparent reason, but you see I had a fire struck deep within me for transmitting frequencies. You can say it was my drug of choice, especially when I saw what it could do with a televised transmission. I understood transmission ranges with VHF, very high frequencies, to UHF, ultra high frequencies. Most of these analog channels operated upon megahertz transmission. MHz. There's always 6 MHz or megahertz that's placed in between each channel range. So channel 12 being just before the last VHF channel operated upon a megahertz range of 204 to 210 MHz. Channel 13 is the last VHF channel, and then comes the UHF channel band, and the magical channel you needed to target was channel 44 WSN-STV. This is if you were in Chicago. It was a Spanish channel that operated from 650 to 656 MHz. And it would timeshare with ONTV. After it goes off air around 7 p.m. No, from here things get slightly complicated. Because ONTV, which a lot of the younger viewer audience may know, the signal will get scrambled, you then can't see the picture nor hear the audio. But here's the workaround I stumbled onto. Remember the shortwave radio I mentioned? Well, it was the obvious solution needed to bypass the no subscription pay, no ONTV. See, I was messing around turning the tuner knob back and forth until suddenly there was a freaking picture on the damn screen. For a split second, I paused and rolled the knob back, and while stunned with anticipation, yes, I hit the sweet spot again. Okay, the image here is from Old Metal Lunchbox's YouTube channel. And what he shows and describes is exactly what I saw too if you didn't have access to an ONTV box. Here's the link to his video. I'll also type in the chat box during today's stream. Just remember to pause the video and type it in the main search box if you want to check that out. Lunchbox used the basic small tuning pong that's usually found toward the bottom backside of the TV set. But you're only getting a partially descrambled TV signal. What I'm sharing with you is how I could see the whole video transmission, and you only needed a shortwave radio to amplify and descramble the transmitting signal. I simply did this by tuning into channel 43. This is one before channel 44, in which the shortwave radio would then stabilize the signal. End result, you're left with a grayscale but clearly watchable broadcast video. Plus the audio was a bit staticky, but you can hear them talking good enough, and you had to slightly adjust the knob to maintain the audio from time to time. I wouldn't tell my father what I was doing with his shortwave radio. If he would have figured it out, he would have beat my ass. Yeah. I was watching Porky's Revenge of the Nerds Friday the 13th, pretty much whatever came on, although you were limited to a single channel with ONTV. Today, that would be a complete rip-off. No, there's more to dig into here. In fact, there was that CBS late night show intro that would kinda spook me out. Whoever was playing that damn piano like rapid fire with the piano keys hit just right, that sent that slight chill up my spine. After that are characters like a cowboy lingering behind stage dancers, all of which are set in marquee lights. The intro is quick. Even though when I first saw it back then it seemed like it was minutes dragging along on. And finally it comes to an end, with an annoying Charlie Chaplin oddball step walk with a cane. That's it. From there it goes into the movie. Okay, no, WMAQ-TV would go off the air. And when doing so would then broadcast images of missing kids. I didn't realize this until I woke up in the middle of the night. And flick a few channels over and bam. Instead of the traditional sine wave, that makes the annoying test pattern noise, it was missing girls plastered on the TV screen instead of a milk carton. It bothered me a bit at first. But I'm getting used to seeing it after a number of times, and you just get used to it. I saw Trisha Kellett's picture shown often after WMAQ went off the air. I think her case never got solved, and her picture was a constant haunting reminder. I also noticed the image enhancement of her if she would have lived to be 51. That's situated toward the far right bottom side. Tales from the Crypt had a trip-out dark entrance. And in the midst of all that is a horrific storm taking place during the intro. The Crypt Keeper added that much-needed dark satire of jokes, just before the horror story starts. I was a bit older at that time. And it didn't bother me much at all. No, the one that nailed it better was Tales from the Dark Side, but its intro wasn't what moved me. It was the outro, not to mention the announcer's creepy voice to give it that added flair of terror. Here comes my favorite, which was a news broadcast that looked as if it came starched and well pressed like a pair of pants slacks straight off the net. Night Owl. This was an odd program that would come on WFLD-TV 32, now today one of the many Fox stations, and this is a UHF-based channel operating at 578 to 584 MHz, and for some apparent reason I thought AM Chicago was hosted on this station. Turns out that was Channel 7 WLS-TV, which Oprah Winfrey was the show's host. Nevertheless, Channel 32 had a ton of shows to check out back then. But this Night Owl program was very damn different is all I could say. Because this program was broadcast in Elk Grove Village within the Chicago metropolitan area, and came on after the station goes off air at the strike of midnight. Usually after a brief Wonder Woman advertisement you'll suddenly see the words Night Owl. So here's where the weirdness came in for me when I first saw it. You'll see an Atari image of an owl sitting on a tree branch, with its eyes flicking side to side. Welcome to Night Owl, and I forgot what was said after that. But the Keyfax Digital Company is mentioned as a sponsor or partner, and this is probably also the ones who maintained the broadcast and Atari 8-bit graphics shown like a scrolling webpage of visual information, alongside a number of popular songs from way back then. Watching the program, you'll see news, sports, crime, politics, etc. Those were the headliners. And underneath them came the paragraphs of information, and it became popular quickly. Thousands of Chicago area residents, including yours truly, were tuning in to literally watch this makeshift version of an internet. So maybe there could have been editors and writers posting summaries of the daily news on that program. I can only speculate that was how it worked. Then they would convert that into digital imagery, using who knows what type of tech then. Maybe electronic gun manipulation, can't say for sure. What I can say is that was all a test to see if people would take to an early version of the internet. No, I wasn't done there right, because I decided to test my memory on the details I just shared with you awesome viewers. So I dragged Gemini AI into the mix to confirm what I shared, and this is what it said. Gemini's critique of my memory about Night Owl. You just unlocked a legendary piece of Chicago television and tech history. What you are remembering is Keyfax Night Owl, which broadcasted on WFLD Channel 32 in Chicago during the early 1980s, roughly 1981 to 1984. You were exactly right about the late night timing. Channel 32 used to broadcast reruns of the 1970s Wonder Woman series starring Linda Carter in the late evenings. When the station's normal programming signed off for the night, usually around midnight or 1 a.m., the Night Owl service would take over the airwaves until the morning. Your memory of how it worked is incredibly sharp. And the actual technology behind it is fascinating. How the makeshift internet actually worked. You hit the nail on the head. It really was a deliberate test for a pre-internet world. Specifically, it was an experiment in a technology called teletext. Number 1. The editor and writers. You speculated that there were editors writing summaries, and you were 100% correct. Keyfax was a joint venture between Field Electronic Publishing, which owned WFLD and the Chicago Sun-Times, and a British company. They had a dedicated newsroom of editors working in Chicago. These writers took breaking news, sports scores, weather updates, and financial data straight from the Sun-Times and Wire services, condensing them into short, page-sized bullet points. Number 2. The tech. Not quite an Atari but close. While the graphics looked exactly like an Atari 8-bit computer or an early arcade game, the system actually utilized British teletext technology called CFax. Instead of an electronic gun manipulating the screen in real time, the graphics and text were generated by a computer terminal using block-based graphics, mosaic characters. The station then broadcasted these pages sequentially. It felt like a scrolling web page because the computer at the station was cycling through a carousel of about 50 to 100 different pages of information, pairing the visual feed with late-night easy listening or pop music. Number 3. The animated owl. That blocky Atari-style owl sitting on a branch with its eyes blinking side to side is a core memory for thousands of Night Owl Chicagoans. Because televisions back then couldn't request a page like a modern web browser, viewers just sat back and watched the pages automatically turn every 15 to 20 seconds. Interspersed between the news paragraphs were simple, blocky computer animations, the blinking owl, a rocket ship taking off, or a dinosaur shaking its tail, just to keep the screen dynamic. The grand experiment. The ultimate goal of Keyfax wasn't just to broadcast this on empty TV channels at night. The real test was to see if consumers would buy expensive, specialized set-top decoder boxes. Okay, I'm back. So Gemini mentioned they were gonna set up decoder boxes for something like a Night Owl cable service. WTF. Basically, I was right on the money then. It would have cost Keyfax a pretty penny to keep that running who knows how many days at a time. Understanding further what Gemini said, is that Keyfax was thinking about syncing up a decoder box, or cable box, and a remote control, and the purpose for that was to allow viewers to select a specific page number, like page 105 for sports. So they would be grabbing pages out of the hidden TV signal lines, or what we call an RSS feed, allowing you to browse the news interactively on your own time. No, I was close, but I took a deeper step into that and discovered this. The hidden lines trick. Vertical blanking interval VBI. I'll right know if you ever watched an old tube TV and the picture started rolling vertically, you probably remember seeing a thick black bar pass across the screen. Well, that black bar is called the vertical blanking interval or VBI. And this was back in the days of analog television. Specifically, the electron gun inside the TV tube would paint a picture of what's shown line by painstaking line top to bottom. Understand that it's the beam of the gun tracing out lines to create digitized objects, so if anyone thought the gun is moving around, no, it's situated behind the tube completely stationary. No, once the it has reached the bottom right corner, after scanning, it shuts off its beam, and the beam is reset at its ready position at the top upper left corner, and the annoying black bar was the dead time allowed for the beam of the gun to reset itself. Now comes the tricky Houdini hand quicker than the eye part, because TV engineers figured out the remaining hidden lines inside the black bar were vacant space, or nothing was there, so they started packing invisible digitized data inside them, and yay, they are old school videotape owners to this day, who don't realize what could be hidden on their VCR types. Now that's an undisputed, mind-brain blaster fact. Crazy, right? So just know that kids in my time were subjected to being brainwashed at any given time because no one would ever suspect the TV was doing it. Well, maybe Carol Ann would suspect it, because that girl seemed to figure out something was hiding behind that damn TV screen. But I don't think it was a digital ghost. So we ran through some psychodynamic details about the 80s. It was a pleasure sharing that with you. From here, we'll wrap up this session. And I'll see you in the next one. So if you liked what you saw and heard today about this informative topic matter, then smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to Mind Blast Mechanics, where we dive deep into the observations that matter. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you have a question to be answered, don't miss our next video, so make sure to tap that bell. Thanks for watching.